for the founding crew. While the algorithm tells me what I already knew.
We never bother trying to figure out what episode it is until we start recording.
It's either 26 or 27.
Nobody knows.
Or 6, 7.
Oh, boy. School.
Hashtag cringe
And that's
mom.
all the time we have for
Yes,
today.
yes.
Wait, I thought that trend was gone.
Oh, I mean, hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and my mission in life is to be so cringe. And so I'm just
seem
I'm
like
just
you're doing a good
doing
job.
it all.
I do
Doing
that
it all.
for sure. The youngest hates it now. He loved it. I know when the trend is about to be done.
Your oldest likes it, then your middle, then your youngest.
Yeah, and then they start hating, and then when the 9-year-old hates it, it's dead. It's dead. 6, 7.
And that's usually when Tarek starts picking.
That's
it up.
when I start going hard.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's our job. I mean, it's like the rite
if
of
y'all
passage.
would just take it up sooner, we could get ahead of it and kill it quicker.
I'm on the cutting edge of a lot of this lingo.
Yeah, that's what people say. That
a lot of people.
You're,
Kid lingo.
You're big popular in middle schools these days.
Big popular, dude. I've been looks maxing.
Well, so I feel like one of the best things about being a school board member is like chatting with the kids, and I start out with them and I say, "Hey, y'all, look, I'm on a quest to be a cringe mom. Tell me something to go home and
Arm
say
me with
to my son's friends." So the big thing that I've gotten over the last maybe month or so has been like, "You're the birthday," right? So it's like, "Oh, you're the birthday." But then
like you're the center of attention or what? Like
yes,
I've never
like
heard this.
Like you a whole mood, a whole vibe. You the birthday. But then when you are the star, is you're the birthday candle.
They're really reaching.
Sounds like main character energy to me.
Yeah, and I'm giving main character energy, so maybe that's why
everyone settled down.
Maybe that's why they're giving it.
This podcast has officially gone way off the rails at this point.
We should probably introduce everyone to Dr. Charlitta Hatch, school board member extraordinaire, and apparently cringe mom.
Yes,
and in the news this week,
yes.
a little bit in the news.
We did not bring you here to help educate our listeners on
how to be cringe.
Middle school lingo.
Can we though? Should we?
No, we should not. I think we did enough of that already.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us first, before we get into the news of the week and the main topic of the episode, for folks who don't know, you're in your first term. Tell us a little bit about how it's going. You're what, 8 months in now?
6, 7.
Nope. That's why I said 8.
That's all you do.
That's why I said 8. Tell us a little bit about how that experience has been for you and who you are and what brought you to the point of running for school board.
Yes. All right. So I am Charlitta from Charlotte. My mom went to West
Born
Charlotte.
and raised?
Yep. My dad went to West Mac.
Third generation. I told you that.
I met my husband in the 10th grade at Vance, which is Chambers, and we have a
You were also in the 10th grade, though, right?
I was in the 10th grade, even though he is older than me by 6 months, so he definitely likes PYT, okay? So that's what I tell him. Yes. But I have just really, Charlotte is home. I'm raising my kids here, and I just got my doctorate at the end of last year. And I was studying how, particularly how Black mothers choose schools for Black boys in a school choice state, and trying to understand why people are not choosing CMS. And so while I was really writing that, and it was, some of my research finds about trust, family engagement, the approaches of which parents are allowed, which ones are not, communication, I'm writing the implications section of it, and really so many things came up that were policy related, like whose voices are centered in policy, how do you go back and look at policy that may have been created in a time where Black mothers weren't welcome into an integrated school district, and how many of those policies are we finding now. So I'm writing that, and then at the same time, the big beautiful bill comes out. And I just felt this urge inside of me that says, how can I be who I say I am? How can I sit here and write 300 pages of what people should do, and then I don't lean in and at least shoot my shot and put my name in the run? And if I don't win, then I can at least say I tried. But like, how do I move theory to practice? And so I really feel like that has been my calling and purpose work of really understanding urban education from a theory perspective.
So your inspiration to run was
the big,
really based
bill.
on your continued education of yourself about what impacts these policies. That's interesting because we hear origin stories all the time about politics, and I don't know that I've heard someone say, like, I went back to school to further my own education, and then the things I was learning and the things I was writing inspired me to actually put them into action. I like that as an origin story.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also love the Big Beautiful Bill. So you know, that
think you
that story,
misunderstood what
you were
story
saying.
really resonated with me.
Yes, I love that.
Specifically, because as we do our normal deep prep work before these episodes, I did find and notice that your dissertation, was it, or
Yeah.
your okay? So I'm just interested, like what is the kind of the punchline abstract, if you will, on your findings as it relates to why people may, or in my question, may not be choosing CMS right now. I'm just interested in that as somebody who has got 3 kids in that system, and I kind of probably have a little bit of an understanding, maybe not as much as you have.
So we'll go down scholarly for a second. And so I was specifically focused on upper income Black mothers.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because so much of the research looks at Black mothers from a deficit perspective. So from a lack, what don't you have? Feed children, give them a coat. So once you address Maslow's hierarchy of needs, now what are Black mothers looking for when it comes to the school experience, particularly in a school system that is 65% Black and brown? Whose voices are we listening to and who are we not? But the findings, to your point, I believe would translate across all dynamics. And it is really around trust. There's so much trust that's been broken, whether it's through your own educational experience within the public school system, that families don't feel that they can trust that their kids are going to get what they need. And so how do you then address that trust? What does trust look like? And trust looks differently for different communities. So some of it's communication, some of it's consistency, some of it's feeling like you have agency over your child's education. And so then how do you get parents to take back the public school system and really own the fact that you should not have to feel like you have to put your kid in private school when you should be able to advocate to your school board members exactly what you're looking for, or to the General Assembly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So one, it's helpful to understand that the upper middle class Black woman is who you were focusing on there, because I bet there are some differences depending on if you had a broader lens than that. But I think that makes sense, and I'd oversimplify it. As somebody who went to public school myself, had options and choices of where my kids would go, and decided to stick with public school despite some concerns and things like that. My gut reaction to like why that is if you are upper middle class, and I think this applies just as much to a Black woman as it does to anybody making a decision, and you have options, you want the best outcomes for your kids. And if you're where you can go pay, whether it's real or perceived, which is probably real in some cases, there are better outcomes to be had at really expensive elite private schools that prepare them for whatever they want to do in the next steps. And that's a tough decision. But my position has always been, you learn a heck of a lot in a public school setting for the real world rest of your life around real people. That has been my argument. Because a lot of people come out of like Ivy League everything. And trust me, I've had plenty of Ivy League people that have worked for me because they didn't understand how to operate in the real world. And that's important.
But the lens too, and the reason why, one of the other reasons why I focused on Black mothers is because Black mothers typically aren't able to just look and say, what is the best school, best being defined as academic quality. So now you're looking at psychological safety, you're looking at representation, you're looking at the diversity of teachers and staff, you're looking at the diversity of the students and the demographics, you're looking at how is the culture represented. Yeah. And then ultimately, if you're going through a through line, it's like, will my child be safe here? And what does safe look like? Because is their spirit going to be broken? Are they going to be over?
It could be the best education in the world, but if they don't feel welcome, that's not a good experience.
And so then when you have a point of privilege, which is why I looked at upper income Black mothers, where you're like, transportation isn't a barrier, food is not a barrier, so I can look at my public school, I can homeschool, I can put them in private school, I can look at a charter. What would make you choose the public school, or what is making you not choose the public school? And then therefore, what are we doing as policymakers to make sure that we're addressing any of those systemic barriers?
The last part Tark mentioned is always my case, and I was K-12 public schools, and I've sensed that some of the kids that were my peers that went to private schools, I mean, maybe they got a better education, but I felt like they were not as prepared for the world, where I felt like I moved through the world better because not only did I go to a school that was very integrated Black and white, but also an ESL school. So a lot of kids who were first generation Americans who didn't speak English or just so many different backgrounds, and I valued all that. In hindsight, I look back now and also realize that I happened to be in a position to go to some of the better public schools in Winston-Salem. It might have been, and Tark's kids are all in public schools, but they go to good public schools, and we know that there are various challenges in various parts of our community as it relates to schools. And had my parents had to choose to send me to a school that was not as high performing in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County system, they may not have done it, and I may not have had that experience. But I'm always grateful that I did, but I think I have a broader picture now as particularly, I live in an area where there's a lot of enthusiasm for people to send their kids to Shamrock Elementary. There's less enthusiasm as it shifts to a certain middle school over there, and they start to go, okay, well, we did that for K-5, but are we really going to send?
That's how Alexander Graham has been in our area for a while. Everyone loves Selwyn and some of the surrounding things. Everyone loves Myers Park for most cases. AG has been a bit of a challenge, and that has really started turning around. And what I've seen, again, my wife's president of the PTO there, the parents they said, we're going to get involved and take accountability.
That's what happened at Shamrock Elementary back in the day.
Well, and I think the other thing I'll press on is good. Because I think good
right?
is just relative, dependent on the family. You know, some people have a high bar for school safety, some as academic, some is access to extracurricular activities. You know, good is so, or the best. Those are all words that are so personal to families that when you're starting to try to think about how do you attract and make it a school where everyone feels like their school is a good public school, even if it may not be the best fit for me and my kids, it's still a good for yours, but the bar is consistent across the board.
My parents did not have a high threshold for school safety. I was at one. We were getting locked down in the library like every couple of weeks.
What did you do?
Barbed wire. No, they weren't locking me.
Oh, got it.
They were locking ourselves inside. But we had it was good academics, and
do you think CMS is too big?
So I think it all depends. We have 185 schools, 140,000 kids almost, third largest employer in the county. And in one lens, I think about all of the opportunities that we're able to provide because we are so big. And so then
to the students or to the employees or all the above?
I think to all of the above. You know, I think there's value in being a part, you know, even if you think about a company. There's the big company benefits, and then there's something about being a part of a small. And what I've been really challenging families that I've been thinking about is almost like going to a big church, but then you have small groups. Your community, your direct child's day-to-day is your kid's school. How do you make that feel small? How do we make sure we have enough resources, access, communication, so you understand how to take care of, like, benefit from the big, but you feel taken care of, and like your school principal knows who your child is within the big. I think, you know, there's always conversations about breaking up, especially the district I represent, the North Meck district. You know, always conversations about breaking up, but I'm like, you don't understand potentially what you're going to lose when you you can't combine all the resources together. So even when you think about some of the independent schools, like they've got a great, unique, intimate feeling, but they don't have all the offerings and the different capabilities that CMS can do. And I always say, if your child learns a little bit differently, they should be in CMS. There is a plethora of resources. I think our problem is, how do you get those resources to families and help it so you don't have to have insider knowledge to navigate the big.
Yeah. So you mentioned your district for people's understanding of what your perspective is in that regard. Do you have all the northern towns?
Yeah, so I have North Charlotte, so the most northern part of North Charlotte.
Like above 485.
So north of Mallet Creek, north of North Lake, north of Mount Island Lake, north of Davis Lake, so that kind of blurb. And at the highest level, if your kid goes to Mallet Creek High School or you're zoned to Mallet Creek High School, then you're probably in the district. And then all of Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson.
So it's probably an interesting mix too,
it is
because
very diverse.
Dude, it can be like snowing up there and not snowing here one morning when you wake up.
And all the towns are very
choices.
unique. You know, the towns are very unique in their needs, and I count it a privilege to be able to represent such a diverse group, because you can't. No one is a monolith, but I mean, when you think about how do you represent each of the towns, and then North Charlotte,
very different concerns, and very different. A wide degree of means in terms of what you both just said. It's like, do you have the financial wherewithal to have options. And I would imagine that there's a good mix of people in your district who do and who don't.
We have the most concentrated amount of charter schools in District 1, so that's what it is, than anywhere else in the state.
Do you have a hypothesis for that?
All the towns, it's all the unique. I mean, yeah, but I mean, one of my neighbors created one of the charter schools. You know, like, I mean, it's just, there is choice in that area. So I always have to look at it from a lens of the default choice is not just our public schools. Like, we are heavily competing, and we don't talk about that, right? But we are heavily competing. I am heavily competing with parents who can choose charter schools tomorrow and not pay a dime. And I think
there's negatives to it, but don't you think there's positives too?
Because it requires us to raise the bar.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And we cannot operate as a CMS district as if we're the only default choice. And you have voices like mine, and kind of Anna London and Cynthia Stone, who have heavily amount of private schools in their districts, that we cannot operate like parents will just choose that. But for me specifically, like, they consider themselves public school advocates going to a charter school. You know, they're not paying. And so I think it's a very unique space to be in. And the last thing I'll say, I think I love what I can bring because I went to Statesville Road Elementary, so kind of like on the northwest part of town. I went to Davidson IB Middle School, and then I went to Vance, which was really would have been Mallard Creek before Mallard Creek was started. So I've been able to
now
live.
Chambers, right?
Yes, yeah. Chambers. So I've lived in the district, and obviously live there now.
So it's timely because aside from the topic we'll get to in a minute, it is the first week of school returning. I actually have debated in my mind, just as a side note, the merits of year-round school. I think
I had that growing up. I liked it.
Same.
Well, because I would rather, as a parent now, and maybe as a kid too, I'd rather have chunks of 3 or 4 weeks off rather than just all this time off. No, I mean, there's different angles to it. But side note, that wasn't where I was going. But if you have a comment on that, I'd like to know.
I had that in elementary school. And
let's pause there. Is year-round school the right
There's
call?
less fall off during the summer because you don't have as long to forget everything you learned.
You don't have the Pizza Hut bucket program.
Oh, we
now.
still have the Pizza Hut
Oh,
bucket
it's back.
program.
Is it
back.
really?
Oh, it's
Personal
back.
vans?
I almost start reading again.
And there's multiple.
Are there Pizza Hut there?
Yes.
Okay.
But one of the and it's apropos because on WB2 this morning we were talking about the relocation of Six Flags headquarters in Carowinds. One of the best parts about year-round school, I guess it wouldn't work if everyone was doing it. When we'd go on family vacations during like the weird little 3-week breaks that you'd get, we'd go up to like Busch Gardens in Virginia. No one was there. Like, you have the whole place to yourself. It's not like everything's packed during summer vacation. It was weird at first, but if all your friends are doing it,
then you don't know.
You don't know.
Society is not set up for what is best for children, right? And so I 100% agree with year-round schools. I think that we know, most of us probably are aware of the research around the summer slide, but I actually think winter break is too long. Like, there's just too many times. Like, if you think about what's happening, even when the school walls are open, after Thanksgiving to MLK, then you think about spring break, and then you think about really Memorial Day to Labor Day. These are long, extended amounts of time that really aren't best for kids learning constantly, continuous with the brain development and all of that. But it's hard to lean into it, which is why I wouldn't put my kid in a year-round school because my job is not conducive to a year-round school. Summer camp isn't conducive down here to a year-round school, like after-school programs. And so society would have to shift in order to do that. But, society also does not center children in its decision-making.
Once you force society to shift, it'll just start shifting.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Can we have a motion?
30
Do I hear a second?
I don't have a quorum. I don't know.
You make regular powerful motions, so you just need a second, really.
30-some years ago, my school was one of the only ones in the area that was doing it, and it was like this groundbreaking thing, and people were seeing the benefits of it, and then
because
nothing.
They needed y'all out in the tobacco fields and rolling the cigarettes.
Well, those things don't make themselves.
Right.
And it taught me good character building work lessons.
Welcome to Winston-Salem. Here's your carton of cigarettes.
I went to R.J. Reynolds High School.
So good.
Wow.
Yeah, so literally the tobacco scion, namesake.
He lettered in chain
smoking.
So with this week coming back, first of all, I never quite understood why it started on Tuesday, not a Monday, but okay, whatever. How's it going? At your view, I have a micro view of my kids' 2 schools. how is your macro view? Like, how is where are your pain points? What are you guys excited about? What should parents be thinking about?
So I think the biggest thing that we are hearing right now is around transportation. And I think that, my message would be we are the largest transportation engine in the state. We've rolled out a new app. We are moving kids as safely as possible. And so my plea to parents would be, including myself, I have a kid who's a bus rider in our neighborhood, and the bus was 45 minutes late this morning.
Ooh.
But
does the app just give them like real-time location information?
It's about whether or not maybe you can trust the app right this second, because it's all still being
It's
worked
supposed to
out.
do that.
Yeah, I think, but it's the first day or two
If only
of school.
they had a tech expert and data expert on the school board.
If only they had me.
You're like,
part and
move,
paid
let me
attention.
do it.
But
Control, Alt,
I
delete.
think the grace
I'll
is
handle the
needed.
procurement process on this one.
I got it. But I think the grace is needed for the first 2 weeks of school. Just let things kind of shake out, because the kids are fine if the parents are fine. And so expecting perfection on the first week of school, everybody's learning, everyone's new, I think is critical. I think the other thing has just really been around just safety. I think that's the second through line of just making sure parents want to feel like their kids are safe, not just at the bus, but also with the school walls. And so there's been a lot of news lately. And so I think that's where I would go to your child's principal and make sure you understand the school safety plan and reinforce at home that your child is clear and knows what to do if they don't feel safe.
I think that's one of, again, drawing a parallel back to my experience as I look on it now.
Let's make it all about you
adult.
for sure.
Well, this idea that, like you said, I don't know how you said it exactly. You said something like if the parents are okay, the kids will feel okay. Like some of this stuff that we plant in kids' heads is, for instance, in Winston-Salem, we were being bused across town. I never realized I was being bused by 6 other schools to get to my school because my parents never made a big deal out of it. You just get on a bus and it takes you to a school. So I think a lot of the things where we're like, they're experimenting with our kids, or they're doing this, or this isn't good for our kids. The kids hear that and then start to internalize and go, this is bad for me. It never occurred to me until I was an adult that I had been bused to the other side of Winston-Salem. I mean, parents are just like, that's where you go to school.
I never even heard my parents talk bad about the president of the United States. I mean, I didn't grow up hearing them like.
Because Reagan was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but.
A relative.
but we just didn't. And now I'm just so afraid of how loose we are as adults with all the access to
Planting
information.
All these seeds in kids'
Let me
heads.
tell you, even
you
beyond that,
even
though,
screen.
YouTube. Whatever we say, which is probably more than we should, they've already heard it times 10 on YouTube. YouTube
That's if
is
you
a
let them
wild,
watch YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's why I don't. Because I was trying to explain to my son when he was crying all about it.
How old are your kids?
9 and 5. But he was like, I want to watch YouTube. Blah, blah. I'm like, when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons. I wasn't allowed to watch In Living Color. I wasn't allowed to watch Martin. My dad was a
missed
pastor.
all the good stuff.
But, I wasn't allowed. Now, my husband was allowed to watch all these things. And I was just like, hey. But,
And you see how that turned out.
I'm just saying. One of us is here. No, I'm just playing. But on YouTube, you can't block things. Like if you block.
I thought there were age controls.
Yeah, but if you block let's say a producer or subscriber or whatever, the next one could still pop up. You're just constantly.
It's whack-a-mole.
And so at first I was trying to put parameters like, hey, if it's a grown up, you can't watch it. If this or that. But now I'm just like, no YouTube, because it's just. I don't want you. Once you see it, I can't. You can't take it back.
You know who creeps me out? Ms. Rachel.
Oh.
I think that's like a cult or something.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, she's like a little.
The little one doesn't
teacher.
watch Ms. Rachel.
I don't watch it with them, dude. They're just.
Well, you got to keep an eye on it, man.
YouTube is for
It's for
occupying them. Yeah, get over there.
Got to
and
keep
watch
an
YouTube.
eye on them.
So let me ask. Let's transition into you're a technologist, woman after my own heart.
Yes.
I think that is incredibly rare in municipal elected office or elected office anywhere for people who truly get it. Just in general, because you love data, that's what your focus has been. I know you think and talk a lot about AI. How should our schools be approaching AI, both from efficiency, but also teaching of the kids and fearing it versus embracing it? What's your position on all that?
So I'm a big believer in the fact that we already know AI is here. And what we don't want, especially when we think about the digital divide and we think about people who have access and not, we should be learning from previous tech trends faster. So think about the fax machine, think about cell phones, typewriters, computers, even cars, the evolution of cars. So we cannot take the position that we've got to go so slow because we're so fearful of all of the risks. We've got to learn from the history of what we've done and figure out how we position ourselves, particularly in the United States, to be ahead of the curve instead of kind of lagging behind. So I think we have to think about it, not only how it transforms the way kids learn and the way teachers teach, but I often talk about, again, our school board is, leading the third largest employer in the county. So we also have to think about how we gain efficiencies through artificial intelligence in the way that we run our business. And we should be leaning into that because we can take lessons learned from previous trends and apply them here faster.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. I think it's where the rubber meets the road. You need to make one of your famous motions, where we move more quick. I have to sneeze. Larkin, take over real quick.
Please just aim away from the microphone.
No, wait, I think it moved away. It moved on. So, but that
was weird.
It's still kind of there. It's a weird thing.
I have that effect on people.
Yes, you do.
They're allergic to you?
No, I don't really see it as allergies. It's more like speechless.
Yeah, speechless.
That's not usually
That's how it works.
That's not how sneezes work.
But one of the things, I think it's a no-brainer for efficiencies with the administration all the way down to the teachers. No-brainer. What I think the real hard decision to make, but I think it's really important that we figure it out, is how do we start empowering these kids to utilize it not as a way to cheat, but as a way where they are producing more, right? And I think that's I've had youth programs for a better part of a decade, and right when ChatGPT and OpenAI was coming out, we immediately brought these high school kids in and gave them APIs and said, start building stuff. So the way they were using it wasn't like, here's this homework assignment, I'm going to get the answers and then pop it back out. It was, how do I create the thing that then, because how we use it today it's changed the game, and we haven't even seen where this is going. So our kids versus the kids in China and India and Russia and other places like that, this is where the battleground's going to be. We've got to get that involved more.
So I think that's where you can't, as a parent and also as a teacher, be afraid of it. So it's like, how are you incorporating ethics into the conversation, right? Because I teach at UNC Charlotte as well, and I have a fun course this semester called Algorithm Justice. And I start out with my course and I say, if you're a cheater, you're a cheater. It is not about AI. If you were
just another way to cheat.
Yeah, if you were buying book reports, if you're using Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, paying people to do your assignments, okay, so you're going to do that here. I'm not going to make that an AI thing. That's an ethics thing. And so how do you define the ethics up front? As a parent, how do you talk about it? Because kids may not even realize that they're cheating when they copy and paste something from it, or if they're using it for acceleration. So my guardrail is 80% of what you turn in should be your original thought. So if the 80% is relative, but depends on the assignment, but 80% of it should be your work, because we should not be outsourcing human intelligence and creativity. But I think parents have a responsibility to not be afraid of it, to make it a part of the way that you work at home. And I think teachers should, also incorporate it into the lessons to help make sure students are using it. So many parents are worried about kids losing critical thinking skills. And I often say, I think you need even more critical thinking skills, because you need to understand the output of what you're saying. And so if we say something like 10 out of 10 dentists recommend this toothpaste, because that's just data, right? I want a scholar that's going to say, how many toothpaste did you give
how
them?
many do they have to choose from?
Yeah. Is anybody an investor in it? Was any of it pediatric dentists? Or, really getting curious about the information that you're seeing. But also, in order to do that, you need to understand how it works. So students have also said, well, why are we even in school if it's going to take away our jobs? Because you need to understand how the algorithm works, what's behind the data, so that you can be curious and so you can be a problem solver. So I think it's a very unique problem to solve. And when we lean into it and we name the thing, I know we can get great outputs from it.
How much do you think CMS is or should be teaching students how to consume the information that they're seeing out there and discern what's real, fake, misleading, whatever. Do you think we're doing a good job of that now in the age of even well-educated adults being fooled by fake videos or fake news stories or whatever?
I think so. There's a digital citizenship program, that all kids, depending on their grade level, are going through. I think there is also a AI pilot. So there's been 30 schools that's really leaned in heavily into kind of AI literacy, AI boot camp training, transforming, doing pilots with certain teachers. So I do think that, CMS is leaning into artificial intelligence. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Board Member Monterey Duval a year or so ago was the one who put forth the policy around artificial intelligence for kind of the district to lean into it.
To lean into the literacy element for
AI.
students to be able to spot those things. Because honestly, that's one of my bigger concerns is they may be using it to help them, but if they're not able to discern what is good information versus slop, then...
And that's that critical thinking.
Yeah.
And it's like everywhere. The superintendent also has an AI advisory council, so she has different thought leaders on that council, and I was on it through my role at the city at the time. And we had to come up with a profile of what we thought were the key skills for students to be, competitive in an AI society. And collaboration, communication, curiosity, critical thinking always come up no matter what conversation you're in. And so the real test is, how are we making sure that we can manage the tension of what is required through our General Assembly as it relates to assessment, but also what is needed for kids to be competitive in the workforce when they leave us.
If that task force is looking for someone who's unnecessarily loud and talks too much, Tark would love to serve one of them, but...
Yeah, no, I'm good. So, all right, let's we've beaten around the bush long enough. It's time for the main event of this podcast episode. Now, we'll preface this by saying Larkin and I have sat in similar seats to yours. We understand that there's some things you're just not going to be able to say. So we've got some questions and stuff. If you need to push back and say, I really can't talk about that, understood completely. But I think our goal here is there's a lot of people, and I think a lot of people on your board too, at least, led by you on this, that want to have some understanding of what's going on, understanding that there's personnel, file issues, and laws, that kind of stuff will never get out. But there are other things, at least we can get a sense of what happened in these last 3+ months or however long it's been, that started with a strange budget meeting, that then went to the announcement of a paid leave and an investigation that then now came
2 months
back
later.
2 months later, and a lot of money spent later as well, back to a return right before school starts of the superintendent, and maybe some vague announcements that some things were found, but obviously the unsaid words in that were not enough to warrant dismissal. But in coming back is okay, but there's some things that takeaways that will be had, lessons that will be learned, whatever, but maybe that's it. And that wasn't, again, I'm trying to bring everyone up to speed. That wasn't enough for you necessarily. And you this week, last week, you forecasted it. And then this week you got a second, and move forward with at least whatever the next steps of more transparency will be.
We want to give more information to the public.
It was a
about what this was.
6-0-3 vote, as we like to call it.
We're a little confused about the 3 abstentions because when we were in elected office, you couldn't just randomly abstain.
We weren't allowed. Yeah, we were never allowed to abstain. So, but before we ask any specific questions, was your goal in all this? What do you want people to know, just without us guessing by asking a question?
Yeah. So I think we are in a unique spot as school board members because we have 3 kind of hats that we wear. So 1 is governing the district, but 2, we operate as the employer, and 3, we're quasi-judicial. And so when we talk about that second role as the employer, CMS is like a DBA name. Like, that's not on any legal documents. We are the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Board of Education. So we are the employer and the entity in which everyone is employed. And so when things come to your employer, whether it's small or huge, you have an obligation to take those things seriously. And I would like the public to see that that we're taking our responsibility that you entrusted us to do as your elected officials, as employers, seriously, just like you would want your boss at work to do. So you would not want someone to release the information of why, who said what in an email. It may not even be true, but then your employer still has to call HR and investigate it. And some of those things they do and you don't know they're doing. Some of those things you might have to step aside so that, there's no fear or whatever. And so I think that it's the employer hat that you've got to look through your school board members on. But depending on what it is, so something like this that's public, what I would do at work is I would bring my team together and say, look, I'm not going to get into the details of, who said what and all of those things, but I do want you to know that going forward, this is what you can expect from me as your leader, or here are 3 process changes that we're going to take so that we can continue to move forward healthily. That's what I would like for us to do, which is why I brought the motion forward, because I really wanted people to be able to see the conversation that we have as board members as it relates to what does it look like to be transparent. And it's really a leadership style, because you could also have a manager who's like, it's over, we're not addressing it, move on, get back to work. And everybody's talking at the water cooler about it, but they don't care. Or you can have a manager that's like, we're going to squash the noise so we can all focus on what matters, and that's our mission, and that's the kids.
So, and I'm going to try to say this in a way that doesn't put you in a position that you can't answer, but would it then, me trying to read between the lines there, would it be fair to say something was brought forward and y'all felt a need to dig into it, unpack it, make sure that it was or wasn't, figure out whether it was or wasn't true? It sounds like maybe what was brought forward was not accurate, but in the process of that unpacking, did y'all identify some policy changes that could help prevent those sort of misunderstandings or accusations or whatever in the future?
So I probably can't answer that as directly as you worded it at this time. But what I will say is that Chair Snead released a statement that said that there were allegations that were brought forward that we needed to investigate. And then in a subsequent statement, she shared that the investigation has completed and we believe that Dr. Hill is good to return back to work. So I'm going to put that there.
Do you think that the board was united in that latter statement? That
is there any disagreement right now that statement
about that decision
isn't accurate, that she should be back to work, I guess?
I cannot speak for the full board, as y'all know.
Do you disagree with that? Do you think she should be back to work?
For me, I stand with our board.
Okay.
That we have Dr. Hill leading our district. I saw her today, actually, at a school. I was working in the bus parking lot before I came here to volunteer because of transportation. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited. And I think as a mother of a child in this district, if I did not think that she was the right person to lead us forward, I would have my own personal privilege to really be stomping and yelling up and down. And I think people should feel like that. It's not just me that is a mother in this district, but Chair Snead, Board Member Dr. Witherspoon, Board Member Monterey Duvall. We all have kids right now in this district, and Board Member Haynes. I mean, we have kids from elementary school, middle school, and high school, early college. So we're parents too.
So when should people expect the action that you took this week at the board meeting, that you made the motion? When should people expect to see something more than what they've seen up till now?
So put the motion forward to have it done before the end of September. So it should be, if it's not at the first September board meeting, it should be at the second one. I wanted to time box it because I didn't want to continue to drag it out and for us to kind of do the whole analysis paralysis thing. And there's just such an interesting piece of transparency and like, what do you need to know versus what do you want to know, right? And sometimes I think, especially when you look at the comments, it's like,
you should never look at the comments.
I know, my husband keeps telling me that too.
That's the first rule of political office.
I know, but I do care. And I would not do wrong by our employees or a child. And I would not do to somebody what I wouldn't want done to me. And I know there have been times where, I've gotten feedback at work. I'm not perfect, but I don't know that should be on the front page of the news.
I think one of the issues people generically have, not just with this, but with a lot of all of our municipal government's actions, are a lot of times people use the personnel defense as
a
catch-all because they just don't want to talk about it. And I know personally over
we
the
saw
last
it
10
done.
years, many times where I would fight back and say, I agree with you. This part has nothing to do with the personnel stuff. So that's one just asterisk
No,
put
I
next
agree
to
with
it.
you.
But I think what I'm reading between the lines, and again, if you can't say it, that's fine. But what I'm hearing and what I sense is, I don't get the sense that you're expecting in your motion when it gets fulfilled that there's going to be some huge scandal and
Agreed.
aha. I think what I'm
Agreed.
seeing is you're just trying to close out this chapter
Agreed.
with a little transparency, which then leads me next to believe that there isn't any massive smoking gun that no one understands, at least. There might be some
Correct.
learnings.
And if there was, she wouldn't be back at work. Right. And
Right.
so I think that's and again, an investigation, just like any time at work, it does not always
But why
mean
is
that
there
it's that.
why is there pushback then? Why isn't it a unanimous vote? Why were you the one that have to bring it out? Why does somebody say it's performative in the commentary? Or what I totally didn't agree with at all was, well, I was caught off guard and I needed time to. You forecasted this, and a second was forecasted the week before. So I don't understand what am I missing that someone wouldn't naturally want to
do what you're trying to do.
I think we'll rest in the tension of what you just said around personnel. I think it could be some interpretation that everything that's currently related to the investigation is a personnel. And again, to be clear, and this is what I said, I don't think it should be that this person said this and all of that. That's not cool, and that's not that, and that would be protected.
Disagreements about where the line is drawn between what is
Correct.
relevant to release and what is protected.
Correct. And if you don't have potentially
your lawyer can help just very
Correct.
Legally
in a binary matter say this is.
But there's a legal matter of what you can't release. But then there's probably more of an opinion-based matter about what is necessary to release or what
Correct.
you feel like you actually should be obligated to share publicly.
And that's again, that is why I wanted to put it forward, because I wanted the community to see the tension and the debate.
Yeah.
Right. And even, like to me, like in the way I described it in the motion, there should be no reason why we wouldn't say this is the date that it started. This is the date that it concluded. This is how much it cost. This was the process that the law firm took. This is, some of the themes that they found. This is going to result in actions that the board recommend. And I mean, honestly, if we took 2 months on this and there are no opportunities for us to improve as a governing body, then I would say that was not a good use.
Right.
But I think if we can get improvements out of this, recommendations, and people can actually see and experience something different as a result of this, even if it's one thing, I would say then it's worth it.
Do you think that the community paying attention to this, when they see the outcome of your motion that ultimately passed, that we've already asked the first question, is there going to be some shocker smoking gun? I didn't assume that to begin with. Do you think that they will see that there was at least some value, though, out of the process in what can be learned or changed, or no?
And will it be clear what those changes tied to this process are?
That's what I think should be. But I will say, I think we're in a lose-lose situation here. I think, as I wrestled with this for the last couple of months, I'm like, no matter what we do, people will think that we shouldn't have done the investigation, or we should have. Some people will have opinions that the report is useless. Some people will think that it's not enough. Like, I don't know that there will be any kind of appeasing thing here, which is why I believe that if you voted for your elected to represent the best interest of the community, then I am putting forward to say, I believe transparency builds trust. I can see as a community member, since I'm newer to the seat, I still feel closer to that piece. I think we look shady. I mean, I do think we look shady. We've had multiple closed sessions 4 months. Now, we have spent agonizing time trying to talk about this and make sure we're doing right by every single person involved, and that takes time. And so in some ways, I would wish that the lens was, wow, they have a lot of care and fidelity that they're putting in this. Not look at the government going behind closed doors to be shady, but I can see why people think that, and we haven't done the best job of filling in the narrative.
Well,
because
when there's a vacuum, someone will fill it.
To paraphrase, then, this action that you've decided to take and take the lead on that wasn't happening without you doing it is less about the fact that you feel there's going to be some revelation, and it's more about just throwing some transparency to end cap what has been a little bit of a painful, but hopefully everyone will see okay process in the end.
I think we owe it, and as I said before, I think I wanted to say more along the way, but I understand that it's kind of like if you're in a jury and they don't want you to watch the news because they don't want you to have undue bias, or if this person said this, then let me say that and this and that, right? So we were trying to make sure in us remaining silent that we weren't doing any undue influence on the process, which I think is the right thing to do. But we were also getting slammed by people who were like, this is unacceptable. And what I'm saying is I get it.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense at all of how Dr. Hill feels about this course of action? Is this something that she hates, that she loves, that she is indifferent and just wants to move on, or you don't really know or want to make a comment on how her position of this move might be on your motion?
Yeah, I wouldn't make a comment. She didn't make a comment, throughout the conversation on the board. And so I saw that as her potentially deferring to the board and doing the will of the board, which is what she often says. I will do whatever the board directs me to do. So I would not be able to opine on the inside piece.
Of course. And then just curious, because Larkin and I have spent a lot of time on sometimes functioning and sometimes non-functioning bodies, right? Elected bodies. How after all this are the dynamics, the social dynamics of the board with each other, of the board now with the returning superintendent, with the deputies that were in charge while she was gone? How do you think that is in relation to school starting and you guys having a ton of work to do?
So how long have you been married?
For
you don't get this wrong.
Of years.
Don't get this wrong, Tarek.
So I've been married.
We're going to make him answer this question.
7 + 7 + 19 years.
19 years. And how long did you know her beforehand?
Don't get this wrong either.
I've known her for 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
And when did you have your first child? I'm going somewhere with this.
13 years ago.
13 years ago. Okay.
There's a lot of math.
He's sweating over there.
I was told there would be no math. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is
the
this
new
Common
math.
Core?
This
I'm like,
is the new
give
math.
me the entire page.
Well, I'm going to do girl math for you. But so I've known my husband since I was 16. We broke up a lot, but I always tell people he had a praying grandma.
That's because he was watching all those.
Yes, he was watching all the inappropriate shows. Rated R shows.
You're like, I can't date a dude watching Simpsons.
Yes. But I think it's interesting when I think about relationships and you have somebody that I consider my husband, my friend, and we have gone through hard things together, but we have a foundation and a friendship on. It doesn't change with people who meet in 6 months, get married, have a baby all in less than 2 years, right? I think their heart is different because they don't have anything to fall back on, but they still can make it. And I just think that with our board, we're so new. It's a relatively new board. 4 board members joined. And so that, one more person, the whole board would have basically turned over, right? And we came in with, the weather, the budget, all of these, and now the superintendent investigation. I think we've done some really hard things in a short amount of time that I think will pay dividends for the relationship.
Has it strained you, though?
Yeah, well, but it will pay dividends in the end. But we also haven't built camaraderie really because everything has been a thing and hard. So it's we had these newborns and we just got married and it's been less than a year and we just done that. And the baby's still waking up in the middle of the night, but we are going to raise good children. And I
you
believe
didn't have to ask me all those math questions for this analogy, just for the record.
I was
She just wanted to make sure you knew.
I wanted to see if you could relate to what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like, you
No,
probably
totally.
have friends who you're like, wait a minute,
But
y'all getting engaged?
It's
Y'all
a lot.
getting
It's a
But
lot.
as an
it's
aside, can you imagine having to live with this dude for 27 years?
yeah, dude, crazy.
Wait till you see the face she just made into that camera later.
So no, listen, it's a lot.
Well, he lost me when he said he liked the big beautiful bill. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I get
He
it.
was mostly trolling.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that the parallel to what we know, Larkin and I, is in that post-COVID, right after COVID world, where a bunch of new council members came on, and they immediately jumped onto a first of its kind remote, and we're handling crazy situations, and we don't have the strong relationships like we had with the term or so before with others. So depending on where all this goes, based on me just analyzing what you've said, once some of that camaraderie is built and you get a little time between you, I think it'll make everyone stronger and you'll have war stories to tell. But for right now, my guess would be it can be fairly awkward.
It's like a trauma bond, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like
the bond isn't there; it's just trauma right now.
And everybody's
But
like,
you haven't really been attacking each other. Like,
agreed.
We had
There's
some
none
of
of that. No.
And that was tough.
Yeah, but I only asked that because when the school board for a while was quiet. Like, it was the county that had drama, and then we took over on the council. When I see this, and then I start to see some people saying this is performative, to me that feels like it's on a slippery slope of when people start talking about the actions of other members that are elected of their body like that.
And undermining,
you're just a little bit like, where's this going to go, right?
Yeah, and I took that as, what are we doing in releasing this report? Are we doing this to just kind of check the box? And that's why I said if this would only be performative to me if we actually weren't going to release anything. We're saying but otherwise it would not be performative. But I do think that to me there hasn't been any beef, in my view towards me for sure. But I think there's not there is still time in building the bond, and sometimes the trauma is what helps you build the bond. You get on the other side of it, and I'm just viewing it as, wow, we have come in and we have done a lot of hard things. I mean, just think, you probably remember the weather. We had to keep shutting down school because of the snow, but then it wasn't snowing. But then,
I remember.
But that was a lot of heat. Then the magnet school changed. I mean, just a lot of hard things in a short amount of time.
And all that stuff. Man,
and when you don't have the y'all remember when we went to this, or did this, or we don't have that default.
Y'all got to take field trips.
Yeah, we haven't.
That was the core of Smudgy Mitchell's mayoral contention. He was like, "We're going to go on field trips. We're going to bond. There's no I in team, but there's."
We laughed about it, but there is. I mean,
there's
some truth to it.
Honestly, it is
there
important
is.
to have, as you said, that foundational trust. We actually talked about this on WBT this morning too, which is you can disagree with people if you trust them.
Correct.
And then you can move forward, and the next day can be a whole new day. Even when you agree with people, if you don't trust them, that's a very shaky relationship to have to move forward with. And so, building that trust, and building trust takes time, obviously.
Personally, we like you a lot. We love Chair Sneed. We really like the superintendent. And the topics you guys are dealing with, one, I would never do it. There's no amount of money you could pay me.
Most thankless job in local politics.
But it's so important. So our hope, I can speak for both of us, is
he
that
never speaks for me.
I'll speak for Larkin for sure. Is that the big beautiful bill was something that just totally changed this world for the better.
Well, it changed the world.
But I would hope, and maybe I think you brought forth a bold motion. I'm interested to see where it ends. But I think there could be some team building, some of that bond stuff that really makes sure that the whole narrative becomes a positive amongst all of you guys. But it's certainly been interesting to watch. I can tell you that.
If you want us to be the chaperones on a field trip, we could all go to a high school football game together or something.
Do dodgeball or laser tag or something.
Well, you might have to tag in board member Shemaya Haynes. She has been talking about doing a post kind of retro retreat. So she probably.
I think y'all should 100% do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, normally I'm not for boondoggle retreats. I can't imagine a better use of funds than a retreat to get away for a couple days and for you guys to have that bonding moment in the midst of all this. I think of it, trust falls, you know what I mean? All that stuff.
Well, and I think when people understand, and that's why I love that y'all let me share kind of my why, because I think when people understand where you are and where you're coming from, then they know, like, you know, like I ran as a Black mother writing a dissertation about Black mothers' voices not being at policymaking tables. Like, I'm not trying to be the governor. I'm not trying to make people look bad. I'm, you know, like, and I think if you understand people's intentions, even when they rub you the wrong way, even when you disagree with them, then you're like, well.
That's why this podcast, and I know you do your show as well. That's why this is so important to us, because it's a world of sound bites, and the long form just discussion, you cannot replace that. You cannot get that context from something else.
Since Stark mentioned it, plug your show.
Yeah.
Where can people get more of Dr. Hatch?
Yeah, so part of what's important to me is how do we bring the community into the classroom. So I have the community classroom every Monday at 5 p.m. live on WSIC is the Lake Norman radio channel. But
where is that on the dial?
It is 105.5 FM, but it's live streamed on YouTube and all the social media channels. But what I love about it is we are bringing in people from the community to share information with people to the community. So we've had electeds, but we've also had nonprofits. We've had the library. We've had Heart Math Tutoring. Upcoming today, we have on this coming Monday, we'll have a mother who is a multilingual language immersion mother who's going to talk about a little bit more of those things. So we'd love for y'all to follow, join. If y'all have suggestions of things y'all want to hear more about, then let me know. And maybe y'all will come up.
Well, we haven't been invited, but we
will switch the seats here.
No, we're good.
You don't want to come
we'll
to Cornelius?
100% we'll do it.
Okay.
We're glad to do it. That's great. And we had to ask everyone who joins the show, just because this is the time we're in, are you running for mayor?
Absolutely not.
Well,
no.
Maybe. Okay,
no,
we'll leave that
no,
at a maybe.
Absolutely not. No, I want to be on the school board. I am here for kids.
Glutton
if you
for
get
punishment.
to know
I'll tell
me, my
game recognized game. I like your social media content clip game.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
100%.
you. But I'm a children's book author. I mean, I am here for kids. And
plug your latest book.
Yes, I have 3 books. It was really birthed into me after Keith Lamont Scott. Here in Charlotte, I was pregnant with my son, and I had 2 people come up to me and apologize that I was bringing a Black son into the world. And that's really what kind of really started the journey for me in all of this. And when I was nursing him when he was 8 months, I looked and realized that the books that we had that feature Black boys in our house were Black history related or sports related. And I thought that's just what we bought because my husband played football at Elon and I went to Hampton. And then I found that less than 10% of children's books feature people of color, less than 3% feature Black boys as the leading protagonists. And so then I thought, like, that's a problem. How do we solve it? So I wrote.
Tell me one of them is like a Black kid that's a nerd, like just a super bookworm nerd who just only likes to type on the computer and play video games.
Well, the first book, Black Boy Joy. Do you remember I Love You Forever? Do y'all remember that book?
No one ever read that to me growing up.
Well, but Black Boy Joy is my first book, and it's really a kind of a journey of a mother raising her son.
I do know I Love You Forever.
And you do?
I do.
And remember how the mom died at the end?
Oh,
and then
that's right.
And then
that's heavy for a
yeah.
children's book.
Pretty
Well,
heavy,
no.
yeah.
So my book stops when he goes to college.
Okay,
We don't go that far. But then I have Black Boy Joy Christmas Countdown because it was hard for me to find a book featuring a Black family that wasn't related to Kwanzaa. And then Black Boy Joy Promoted to Big Brother. And I love that book so much because Black Boy Joy realizes that his dad is a big brother and his dad teaches him how to be a big brother. And my 4th book that I'm working on right now is Black Boy Joy Has Big Feelings. Do y'all remember Alexander and the No Good, Very Bad Day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. So all the different emotions you can feel throughout the day and kind of what you do with them with a little bit of swag. So I'm excited about it. But
Do you sleep?
I do not sleep because I have 2 kids and I have all this stuff inside of me that I want to do.
Get out.
But a mom reached out to me and she said, is it just about the book for you? And I said, I don't think so. I think I want to change the face of Black parenting in this country. And she said, you need to talk to my husband. Her husband was Dr. Chance Lewis, who leads the Urban Education Collaborative at UNC Charlotte. And that's how I got into the master's program. And then ultimately the doctoral program was through that conversation because I wasn't even thinking about school.
Won't he do it?
Yes. Won't he do it? Look at God.
Well, you are
Did I use that right?
multi-layered
Thank
onion
you.
for sure.
Yes.
Every time you peel back a layer, you find 5 new
Well, I'm a
layers.
Gemini, so you know.
I don't know what that means.
Freshman school board member in the news. You're so much in the news that we had to have our first school board member on the show.
Have we
here.
ever, did we in the old iteration ever
I don't
have?
know that we've ever even had a school board member
Well, I think
on.
we're
We may-
unlocking the door. We got some pretty cool people on the school
We may
board.
have had Clayton Wilcox on. Did we have
Yeah,
Clayton
I
Wilcox
think
on,
we
the
did.
old superintendent?
Yeah, a very long time
But I'm not
ago.
sure we'd ever had a school board member on until today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the honor.
You've broken the ice here for
Yes,
the, for the
thank
school
you.
board.
Thank you.
Y'all
Well-
keep making good trouble and good news.
Yes, good trouble.
And we look forward to coming and joining you on your show soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank y'all.
Okay,
Absolutely.
bye-bye, everybody.
Not to shout it, but burn to heal it. The louder they scream, the less they mean. There's truth in the dirt, not in the touchscreen.